Okay, so we've done an episode before on very specifically what's in our performance track, how it was programmed, why it's programmed, kind of how it lines out from a daily, weekly, monthly basis. It's more of an undulating program because it's constant. Which
is a different video, so don't go into undulating.
We'll talk about periodized versus undulating programming, the pros and cons. But that's the performance track is really our signature program there that we like to see people get into. It's challenging. It's not something that you should be just jumping right into.
Hence, we have
an assessment that will help you understand kind of where you currently are, helps us inform you of some things you may want to improve on before getting in there. Not because you can't. Anybody can get into it. It's
Everything's
fine.
Scalable.
100%. But what we want you to do is make sure you're getting the max out of it. And if we can help you understand or define some deficiencies, and you can work on those a little bit before jumping in, we just know you're going to get that much more out of it.
If I can work on make sure that, hey, Scott has a better understanding of fitness or power cleanings in general, that I'm not shoving you into a cycle that might have power cleans once every week, and you're like, hands up, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you feel like you're not getting what you need or what you want out of it, or you're frustrated. Or the other part is if, like, again, if you lack the skill, right, that doesn't mean you can't get into the performance track and be practicing the skill. Just understand that we've programmed that in there very specifically. And if you need more skill work, there's another program for you to jump out and do, right? When we look at our strength and power and speed and power program. So anyhow, that said, I just want to kind of overview that to let people know if they want to hear that episode, they can go back and listen to that, because we talk about this really in depth, but learn some things, right?
Learn some things in the last 5-6 months of just from feedback. So I test the program myself. I give it to our developmental group who helps us kind of refine the program. They're very high performing dudes who are bought into the system. And they give me feedback on, hey, this took too long or something like that, so I can scale it down for everybody. I greatly appreciate those guys. There's probably 20 of them on there who are willing to give me feedback and test it and go soup to nuts with the whole program and give me everything feedback wise.
It's so valuable to have people in your camp that are going to be honest with you about that stuff and not just do the thing. And it's having that many is important too. So you get a variety, right, that are running. This is where this conversation is going, is just kind of understanding, look, there is no one size fits all, right? And what we're trying to do our very best of is get as close to giving you the best setup or situation you can. And if we can provide some variety, going back to the variety word, we can provide a few different options based on where you may fit in. If we had to kind of tribe people into kind of 3 tribes, like the really strong people, or the really fast people, or the really the
aerobically blessed.
Yeah, really aerobically blessed people. If we had to do that, okay, that makes it a little easier for us to do things. But yeah, talk through that and kind of what we've learned based on how that program kind of got redesigned or reintroduced to the performance track from what previously existed for IEP, that being the Pillars program.
So the Pillars was 3 levels. It had full scale program, a scaled down program, and then a very minimalist movement only program. And so ideally we'd like to work back to that. But right now we've started with just the high level performance track. I say high level it is all encompassing. It has the meat, the potatoes, the vegetables, the fruit, the supplements, everything is
sauce.
And the sauce.
Secret sauce.
Got the secret sauce in it. Yep. So it is all encompassing, and it takes about an hour 15 to an hour and a half for each of those sessions because you're getting so much in. Now, we've talked about in previous podcasts of how to, or maybe we have or not, we've definitely done it on posts on how to break down the order of prioritization.
Oh, we did it for sure on the podcast.
Let's say it real quick.
Yeah, so you just go in alphabetical order. It is programmed in the order of most benefit and most energy demanding, all the way down to, if you skip this, you're not going to be hurting. It's not going to kill your performance. It's just bonus material at the end of it.
Yeah,
so follow the alphabet.
So we have A block, B block, C block. Some people will do it in numbers, block 1, 2, 3, and then they'll have the sub numbers. And this is A1, A2, A3, that kind of thing, or A3A, A3B, something like that. You'll have that stuff. You're just follow the alphabet, and that's your order of priority.
That's the order of priority. It's not that one is more important than the other. It is just that's what is needed for that particular day first. And then it goes down to what's the supporting exercise for that particular A piece or B piece. And then it goes down to the end of accessory and conditioning and all that.
Yeah, this is based on the demand for neural drive, energy system utilization, and what's going to be left in the tank for those things down, and how that primes you for things that come later in the alphabet. It's not just we like these exercises best, or that we think they're the best things that for you to be doing overall. It's when we're looking at efficiency and effectiveness. That's how we've chosen the stuff. So anyhow,
two feedbacks we've gotten from the people who've been on the program for these last 5 months is, one, I don't have the time to finish everything. I've gotten one guy who, for about 2 weeks, every workout, he put a comment in and be like, got called out on an op or something like that. And I was like, okay, like that's a busy dude. His op tempo is super high right there. And then the other one was that Monday is not super intense. And there's a reason behind that. That is our speed and power day. So if we're going to break down each week, and then I'll go back to why Monday is that way. Monday is our speed and power focus day. Tuesday is our strength focus day, with conditioning at the end of it. Wednesday is our change of direction day, along with a little bit of aerobic piece that Hep adds in there. And then Thursday is our volume and accessory work. So stuff that we're not getting from our core strength pieces that's going to help us be better at our core strength pieces. And then Friday is kind of an all-encompassing day. We do a little bit of max velocity, strength piece, and then a shorter capacity piece. And then Saturday, I created this at the beginning because of the developmental group and their feedback. I created Saturday as either an optional active recovery, so it has some tempo runs or some aerobic work in there just to flush things out, or it can be used as a makeup day. So if you don't get everything in throughout the 5 core days, then you can shift it over on Saturday and do it. But like you mentioned earlier before the podcast, soccer games, family stuff, birthday parties, anything like that can come up on the weekends mainly because you're not working most of the time. And so some people just don't have that opportunity, and so they don't get everything in. And so the solution we've created is what I'm calling the high op tempo program. So not necessarily the busy cop, but somebody who is just working a lot and needs to still perform, still needs to get the meat and potatoes. And that's essentially what it is. It's a meat and potatoes program. You're taking out the vegetables and the supplements and the sauce and all that stuff.
Gosh, I hate broccoli anyway. So.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to eat just steak and rice all the time? And so we've created the high op tempo, which is just essentially the performance program scaled down, but mainly the meat and potatoes in those 5 core days. And then Saturday, Sunday is our recovery days. If you can move it over, cool. If you happen to have a scheduled day of work that you just can't do anything on, like Thursday, bump it over and you're not going to miss anything. You're going to get everything you need in those 5 days. And the time demand is shortened. It's 45 minutes to an hour versus the hour and a half of like an all-encompassing program.
Okay, time out for a second, because there are a few things you said there I want to make sure we highlight.
He just word vomited all over you. Now you're trying to slow him down.
Aaron's very good at doing that. Like, he's like, I know what this is.
I'm
going to deliver it to you in bullet points, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. So there are a few things you said, like what the days look like. Like Monday is speed and power, right? And then
Tuesday strength.
Tuesdays is strength focus. So the key word there being focus. It doesn't mean we're only doing strength 1 day a week on Tuesday. It means the higher demand strength training for the week that happens every day, right? Within the program happens on that day. So it's not we're like taking one thing a day and only doing that. It's what the primary focus is for that day.
The main time spent is that particular focus. You're getting everything in each day. You're getting, except for Monday, which going back to that, I got to cover that because it'll drive me nuts if I watch it back. The speed and power Monday is not intense because it is a high CNS neural demand. And I want that speed and power to be the main focus. And I don't want you to be so fatigued or holding back on the main piece because speed is so beneficial. We've done a podcast on why we sprint. So much more beneficial. We want you to focus all your energy or most of it on that piece and then move on to the pieces that are very, very minimally CNS demanding, physically demanding for that particular day.
Yeah, it's programmed that way for a reason.
No, you're good. He nailed it. No.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So again, it was like the focus for those days is how that's lined up. And when we start to look at training methodologies and programming, that is not uncommon. Like this is not novel. IEP didn't make this up, right? The way it's set up is very much based in science and in practical application for how teams in general, athletes have to train in order to be able to get all the things done in the time that they have to get them done. Okay, the other part is maybe going back to the high op tempo versus low op tempo, what might be the right program for you. And in order to decide that, let's just one more time recover it, and that being high op tempo officers that are very busy, getting called out constantly. they may need less volume and less intensity in their program, or things that maybe not necessarily less intensity, but less volume, because they don't have the time to get it done. Some departments get like an hour and a half every day before or during their shift, to work out. Yes, it could get cut into, but a lot of times they're overlapping with another shift or whatever, so they get their stuff done, right? So they already know they got an hour and a half, in which case they could be a high op tempo team and still have time to get it done.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So I just, again, I'm making the determinations here. But when we say high op tempo, it's somebody that's constantly running all the time, that's very busy, and may not have time to actually fit in the 75 to 90 minute workout, right? It's programmed for 75 minutes, but depending on what you're doing and how long it took you to get going, how many times you check your cell phone or you get interrupted, maybe it takes you closer to 90, right? Yeah. Versus the low op tempo, which would be somebody that generally has a little bit more flexibility in their schedule, has a little bit more time in there, that the hour and 15 to, the 75 minute program, not hard for them to complete, and they don't feel like they're constantly being rushed or having to leave stuff out.
Right. Yeah. And it also plays into like, where's your energy need to be after the workout. So if you still have to go to work after the workout, I don't want you to crush yourself for an hour and a half and then you still have an 8-hour shift afterwards. Like, you don't need to have your energy so spent on just the workout, which is a very small portion of their life. They need to be able to perform on the job. So going back to the low tempo, that usually means they have more time for recovery, and they have downtime to where they can sit at a desk, get recovered, and then move on. They're a little bit more structured setting versus somebody who may be full-time gang unit and then part-time SWAT, and their SWAT team's getting called out a lot too, and they're running around chasing.
They're out
dudes,
all night, multiple nights a week.
Right. Yeah. So there's populations that it's been more beneficial for, and then there's schedules that it's also more beneficial for.
Yeah. The great part about it is it's just a scaled version of the other. So if life shifts, if the tempo shifts or whatever, you can always move back and forth from these things. You're not gonna miss anything. Again, people will be like, well, if I only work out at 45 minutes versus an hour and 15 minutes, then I'm obviously doing less. No, okay. So there may be less volume, right?
Well, I also didn't mention what I'm putting on Saturday. I forgot to do that.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. The point of that being is you're not doing less, you're doing it differently.
Right.
So
why?
That's the conversation we're having, is intensity versus volume.
Yeah, we're getting it. That's a whole other conversation, right? Intensity versus volume, and understanding how to balance both to get the maximum benefit for the minimum effective dose you need in order to get better. Yep. And that should be what this is, how we're thinking about it, again, at the fundamental level. So what does Saturday look like?
So Saturday for the high op tempo is I call it supplementary Saturday. So it's different. Starts off with a good warm-up, and then it has 4 different areas that you may need to work on if you didn't have time, because we're not able to get it in during the day. During the main 5 days a week, it has a rehab section to where it's focusing on the main 3 injury-prone areas of the law enforcement officer, which is back, knee, and shoulder. So it's giving you rehabilitation, prehab exercises to kind of bulletproof those particular areas. Then it has a volume work, so it's a total body volume session broken up into 2 parts. Lower body work, upper body work that you can just kind of get a pump in, and you're getting a little bit more accessory work that you may just didn't have time for through the week. There's an aerobic piece.
The arm farm.
Yeah. Arm farm, maybe a little quad pump, depending on if you go out to beach on short shorts. Right. And then there's an aerobic piece or conditioning piece, depending on what he and I talk through and decide on what to do with that. So you have a little bit of a conditioning piece, and then there's a full guided active recovery piece at the end. So if you just want to feel better, do the warm up, get loose, and then go through some active recovery mobility work. Yeah,
again, so there is no one size fits all. We get that. We're not saying it's we have the one answer for all of the things. It doesn't exist like it. It doesn't work like that. There's flexibility within the programming, right? We just told you, follow the alphabet. Yeah. You can't get it all done. That's okay. If you're finding that you continually can't get it done, all done, and you're on the low op tempo program, maybe you go to the high op tempo area. Yeah. So you scale back a little bit and see how that works for you. You'll also, the other cool thing about that is you'll learn how to do that for yourself, right? The program is there. You'll learn how to modify or where your time may be better spent within that modification of taking some things out or adding some things in, or knowing what to drift to a little bit more. Once you go through it, you got to be consistent in doing those things. But there's always room to reach out and ask, where are you? If you're having an issue, where is it? Tell me about it. And like the guy was telling you Like, I don't think Mondays are intense enough. Well, let's talk about why. But the other part was like the Saturday stuff. Like, dude, I get called out the guy was like getting called out all the time. All right, we need an answer for this because this is a real thing. Like, so we'll try to find the best answer we can. And I think that's the difference, or kind of the modification that people will start to see. We don't want them to be confused by what it is. Same performance track.
Yeah.
Just we have a couple of different versions to meet the demands of the job in life.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't even cover what the exact days look like for the high op tempo. So the high tempo is going to be Monday is going to be speed and strength focused. So it's going to be a total body lift with the speed and power emphasis at the front end. Tuesday is going to be more of a conditioning day. Wednesday is going to be a change direction focused, along with another. It's going to be more upper body focused on that lift because change direction is still lower body demanding with the eccentric and explosion out.
Makes perfect sense.
And then Thursday is going to be another conditioning day, different time domain. So we're working the different energy systems. So we're covering. I'm not even going to get into those because we can go whole couple podcast on that. Different time domain.
Short and long.
Yeah, short and long. Yeah, exactly. And then Friday is max velocity, and then another total body lift. Gotcha. And then Saturday is obviously supplemental Saturday.
So again, the thing, it continues to evolve, right? And it's not about building a bunch of programs that confuse people. It's about using the foundational basic principles within the programming to meet the needs of
That's the one thing I didn't want to do in the very beginning.
Same.
Was like, if you and I argue not against each other, but like we're scared of like, oh, Joe down the road wants this one program. Well, I'll make it for him. Like I need to make sure there are 100 different Joes that have the same issue, which they exist for sure. And then we create the program for those 100 different Joes. Like I don't want someone to come to me and be like, this charcuterie board of what IEP offers is so confusing. I want them to be like, that one speaks to me.
Yeah, and then we built the solution for for helping somebody understand what's the right choice for them by giving them the assessment, right?
Yeah.
So like if you go to the website, you go to IEP-assessment.com, you're going to see the assessment there, and that'll guide you. Like that'll tell you kind of where your deficiencies are. You can make a decision outside of the recommendation we're going to make to you.
We're just going to make fun of you.
You do you, boo. Like whatever you want to do, you can do. But we're helping you kind of guide that path with regard to making the right decision. And so this is just one more thing now in terms of qualifying yourself. Like, so I'm in the performance track. I've been recommended the performance track, or I've chosen I want to do the performance track. Which one's the right one for me? This is just more about time, right?
Which is a great point. We'll end up doing it. It's a good conversation for later of like, now when we do the assessment and we redo the questionnaire, maybe it should say, hey, you were just recommended the performance test because of how you scored in the assessment. My next question is, do you consider yourself part of a high tempo or a high or low tempo, and then define the high and low? And then now it's like, well, we got options for you.
It gets a little bit more specific for them. So that's it. It's just pointing somebody, giving them a compass a little bit when they're looking at things. They don't have to do too much reading, right? They don't have to dig too deep.
Here's what you need.
Yeah, here's what you got. We're trying to make that simple. But we also have all the backup stuff, the YouTube videos and the podcasts and all the stuff we do on social media, and then the direct reach outs that you can do in order to find out more. So make sure you do that.